Heavenly Father, I pray for everyone watching this video right now. May you bless them with peace, joy, and breakthroughs in their lives. Amen. Hello, my wonderful family. I am so glad and grateful to have you here with me today. Your support means the world, and I truly don't take it for granted. Before we dive into today's powerful story, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, drop a comment below to share your thoughts, and of course, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update from this channel. You really think my son would marry someone like you? Maya Chin kept her expression neutral as Caroline Blackwood's words cut through the country club's dining room, but her grip tightened imperceptibly on her water glass. Around them, the Saturday brunch crowd pretended not to listen while hanging on every syllable of what had become weekly entertainment. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Blackwood. Someone like me." Caroline's smile was as sharp as the diamonds glittering at her throat. "Oh, darling, let's not pretend. You work at a non-profit, you drive that little Honda, you live in." She paused, consulting her phone with theatrical precision. "A studio apartment in the Arts District. We all know exactly what this is." Maya glanced across the table at David, her boyfriend of 6 months, watching him squirm in his tailored suit. He'd promised this lunch would be different. He'd sworn his mother was ready to give Maya a real chance. He'd been wrong. "Maya does important work," David said weakly. "The Children's Literacy Foundation she runs." "Oh, how noble." Caroline's laugh tinkled like breaking glass. "David's sweetheart, you can't possibly be this naive. She's obviously done her research on our family. A literacy foundation? How perfectly designed to appeal to your bleeding heart." Maya felt heat rising in her cheeks, but not from embarrassment. From a familiar anger that she'd learned to control over years of dealing with people who judged her by her second-hand clothes and modest lifestyle. "Mrs. Blackwood," Maya said quietly, "what exactly do you think I want from your son?" "His money, obviously. The Blackwood fortune. The trust fund. The real estate portfolio." Caroline leaned forward conspiratorially. "But here's what you don't understand, dear. David doesn't actually control any of it. I do. And I will never, ever approve a dime going to some little gold digger who thinks she can." "Caroline, that's enough." The voice belonged to Victoria Blackwood, David's aunt, who had just arrived and caught the tail end of her sister-in-law's monologue. Victoria slid into the empty chair beside Maya, her silver hair perfectly styled, her expression carefully neutral. "Victoria, I was just explaining reality to David's little friend here." "Were you?" Victoria's tone was mild, but Maya caught something else underneath it. "And what reality is that?" Caroline's confidence faltered slightly. "That some people are born to certain expectations, and others, well, others need to understand their place." Maya had endured 6 months of this. 6 months of snide comments about her clothes, her job, her apartment. 6 months of David's family treating her like an opportunistic outsider who'd somehow tricked their golden boy into a relationship. What they didn't know, what nobody except her attorney and accountant knew, was that Maya Chin wasn't just comfortable. She wasn't just financially secure. Maya Chin was worth $14 billion. But she'd learned long ago that revealing her wealth too early destroyed any chance of finding real love, real friendship, real anything. Every relationship became transactional. Every conversation became calculated. Every emotion became suspect. So she'd created a careful fiction. A modest job running a small literacy nonprofit that she actually funded anonymously. A studio apartment that she rented while her actual penthouse sat empty. A Honda Civic that she drove while her collection of luxury cars gathered dust in a private garage. She'd built an entire alternate life just to find someone who might love Maya the person instead of Maya the fortune. "You know what?" Maya said, standing up with a grace that somehow made Caroline's diamonds look gaudy by comparison. "You're absolutely right, Mrs. Blackwood. This relationship is about money." David's face went white. "Maya, what are you saying?" Maya looked at the man she'd spent 6 months falling in love with. The man who'd never once asked about her finances, who'd insisted on paying for dinners and movies even when she'd offered to split the check. The man who'd told her he loved her intelligence, her passion for helping children learn to read, her laugh when she was truly happy. The man who was now looking at her like she'd just confirmed his mother's worst suspicions. "I'm saying your mother is right about one thing. Money changes everything." Maya's voice was steady, but something in her chest was cracking apart. "And I think it's time everyone understood exactly how much money we're really talking about." Maya reached into her modest purse, a Coach bag she'd bought at an outlet store to maintain her carefully constructed image, and pulled out her phone. David, do you remember when you asked me why I was so passionate about literacy programs? David nodded uncertainly. I told you it was because I believed every child deserved access to books and education, regardless of their family's financial situation. Yes, you did. Maya pulled up an app on her phone and turned the screen so everyone at the table could see it. Caroline leaned forward, squinting at the numbers displayed there. This is my investment portfolio. Real-time tracking. Caroline's face went through several interesting color changes as she processed what she was seeing. That can't be right. That says $14.7 billion as of market close yesterday. Maya's voice was calm, professional. Down about 200 million from last week, but cryptocurrency is volatile. The silence that followed was so complete that Maya could hear the ice settling in water glasses 3 tables away. Victoria was the first to speak. Maya, what exactly are you saying? I'm saying that I've been lying to all of you for 6 months. Maya looked directly at David. I'm saying that I don't work for a literacy foundation. I own one, along with about 40 other charitable organizations around the world. Caroline's mouth was opening and closing like a fish. I'm saying that the reason I'm so passionate about education access is because I was adopted from a Chinese orphanage by American billionaires who died when I was 16 and left me everything. Maya stood up, smoothing down her simple black dress, a dress that had actually cost more than Caroline's car, but looked like something from a department store. And I'm saying that I spent 6 months pretending to be poor because I wanted to find out if David could love someone who wasn't wealthy. Someone who couldn't enhance his social status or add to his family's fortune. David was staring at her like she'd grown a second head. Maya, this is insane. You're telling me you're a billionaire. I'm telling you that I'm the billionaire your mother was worried about you marrying. Maya's smile was sad but genuine. Except I was never after your money, David. I was trying to find out if you were after mine. Maya gathered her purse and looked around the table one more time. Mrs. Blackwood, you were right about one thing. This relationship was always about money. Just not in the way any of us expected. As Maya walked away from the table, she heard Caroline's voice rise in panic behind her. David, go after her. Do you understand what just happened? Do you understand who she is? But Maya was already gone, walking through the country club that she could have bought and demolished without denting her quarterly budget, toward a future that suddenly looked very different than it had 20 minutes ago. Because the real test wasn't whether David's family could accept a poor woman. The real test was whether David could handle the truth about who she really was. And Maya had a sinking feeling that she already knew the answer. Maya's hands were shaking as she reached her Honda Civic, the car she'd deliberately chosen to maintain her cover story. She sat in the driver's seat for a full minute, staring at the country club's ornate facade, before her phone started buzzing with calls from David. She declined the first 3, then finally answered on the 4th. Maya, what the hell just happened in there? I told you the truth. Maya's voice was steadier than she felt. Something I should have done 6 months ago. You told me you were a billionaire. That's not truth, that's impossible. Maya almost laughed. David, do you remember our 3rd date? When you took me to that gallery opening, and I spent an hour talking to the curator about the provenance of the Monet. Yeah, you said you'd studied art history. I said I'd studied art. I didn't say where. Maya closed her eyes. I was discussing pieces from my own collection, David. Paintings that hang in my actual home. Silence on the other end of the line. The Literacy Foundation I supposedly work for? I founded it when I was 18 with my inheritance. It's expanded to 37 countries because I've been funding it personally for over a decade. Maya, this is insane. If what you're saying is true, then why were you living like a normal person? Maya's voice hardened. Because I wanted to find out what it felt like to be loved for who I am instead of what I'm worth. Maya could hear voices in the background, Caroline's shrill tone, Victoria's calmer questions. David had obviously stepped away from the table, but not far enough to escape his family's interrogation. David, I need you to make a choice right now. Either you get in your car and drive away from your family's questions, or you stay there and let them tell you what to think about me. Maya, that's not fair. This is a lot to process. I know it's a lot, but I've been processing it alone for 6 months, wondering every day if you'd still look at me the same way if you knew the truth. Maya heard Caroline's voice getting closer to David's phone. David, you need to get her contact information. Do you understand what this could mean for our family? Maya's heart sank. Did you hear that, David? Maya, my mother is just. Your mother is already calculating how my money could benefit your family. And you're standing there listening to her instead of telling her that my wealth has nothing to do with how you feel about me. Maya hung up and immediately called her assistant, knowing that the careful life she'd built over the past 6 months was about to crumble completely. Lily, it's Maya. I need you to run a full security sweep on everyone connected to David Blackwood. Financial records, background checks, everything. Lily's voice was crisp, professional. Maya, what's happened? Did someone discover your identity? I revealed my identity. There's a difference. Maya started the Honda, muscle memory guiding her toward the modest apartment she'd been living in. And now I need to know exactly who I've been involved with. I'll have preliminary reports within the hour. Maya, are you safe? The question hit Maya harder than she'd expected. For 6 months, she'd felt safer than she had in years. No bodyguards, no security protocols, no constant awareness that she was a target for kidnapping, extortion, or worse. She'd just been Maya who worked at a nonprofit and dated a nice architect. I don't know, Maya admitted. Run the checks first, then we'll assess threat levels. Maya hung up and drove the familiar route to her studio apartment, thinking about the conversation she'd had with her therapist 3 years ago that had led to this elaborate deception in the first place. Dr. Sarah Chin, no relation, despite the shared surname, had been treating Maya for what they diplomatically called wealth-related relationship anxiety for 2 years when Maya had finally broken down completely. I haven't had a real friendship since I was 16, Maya had sobbed in that comfortable office overlooking Central Park. Every person who gets close to me either wants something or is so intimidated by my money that they can't be themselves around me. What would it look like if you could separate yourself from your wealth temporarily? Dr. Chin had asked. If you could interact with people who didn't know about your financial situation? Impossible. Background checks, social media, public records. Anyone can find out who I am with a simple Google search. What if they couldn't? What if you created a completely separate identity? That conversation had led to 18 months of careful planning. Legal name change documents that allowed Maya Chin to exist separately from her public identity as Maya Kensington Chin, heir to the Kensington fortune. A complete backstory, supported by real jobs and real addresses. A new social circle built from scratch. And it had worked beautifully until she'd fallen in love with David Blackwood and realized that living a lie, even a well-intentioned one, was its own kind of prison. Maya's phone buzzed with a text as she parked outside her building. David, *, can we please talk? I need to understand what's happening, *. Before Maya could respond, another text came through from an unknown number. * Miss Chin, this is Victoria Blackwood. I believe we should have a private conversation. Today, *. Maya stared at the message, wondering how Victoria had gotten her number. David must have given it to her, which meant the Blackwood family was already strategizing about how to handle the situation. Maya was halfway up the stairs to her apartment when her phone rang. Lily again. Maya, we have a problem. A big one. How big? David Blackwood isn't who you think he is. Maya stopped dead on the landing. What do you mean? His family's wealth? It's almost entirely fictional. The Blackwood fortune exists mostly on paper and borrowed money. They're leveraged to the breaking point and have been for years. Maya felt the world shift beneath her feet. That's impossible. The country club membership, the lifestyle. All financed through debt and carefully maintained appearances. Maya, the Blackwood family is approximately 6 months away from complete financial collapse. Maya unlocked her apartment door with trembling fingers. Keep going. David's mother has been actively looking for wealthy marriage prospects for her son for over a year. There's a paper trail of her attending charity events, researching eligible women, even hiring a private investigator to identify potential targets. The apartment felt smaller than usual as Maya sank onto her second-hand couch, a piece she'd bought specifically because it looked like something a non-profit worker could afford. Are you telling me that David targeted me deliberately? I'm telling you that based on financial records and email communications, the Blackwood family has been planning this for months. David's pursuit of you wasn't coincidental, Maya. It was orchestrated. Maya felt something cold settling in her stomach. But they thought I was poor. They've been treating me like someone they needed to tolerate until they could find a better option. Maya, There are emails between Caroline Blackwood and David discussing an exit strategy for your relationship that they were planning to implement next month. Maya closed her eyes, thinking about every conversation, every family dinner, every snide comment that had seemed like simple snobbery but was actually something much more calculated. There's more, Lily continued. Victoria Blackwood isn't David's aunt. She's a private investigator Caroline hired to research you. Her real name is Victoria Walsh, and she specializes in investigating the backgrounds of potential marriage partners for wealthy families. Maya felt sick. She's been watching me for 6 months. Longer than that. Maya, she's the one who suggested the country club your nonprofit uses for fundraising events. She's the one who recommended the coffee shop where you and David accidentally met. Victoria Walsh has been orchestrating your entire relationship from the beginning. Maya's mind raced through every interaction with Victoria, every seemingly innocent question about her background, every moment when Victoria had seemed like the only reasonable member of David's family. Lily, if Victoria knows who I really am, she knows everything. Bank records, real estate holdings, the full scope of your wealth. She's known since before David approached you. Maya felt the walls of her carefully constructed world collapsing around her. So when I revealed my identity today, you weren't revealing anything. You were confirming what they already knew and giving them permission to drop the pretense. Maya's phone buzzed with another text from David. * Maya, please. My family is going crazy, but I need to talk to you. Just us. I'm coming over. *. Maya looked at the message, understanding now that even David's apparent confusion might be part of a larger performance. Lily, I need a security team at my apartment. Now. Already en route. Maya, there's something else. Caroline Blackwood made a phone call 20 minutes ago to someone she referred to as our investor. She told them that the Kensington situation is resolved and ready for the next phase. Maya felt her blood turn to ice. The Kensington situation? Maya, I think your relationship with David was never about romance or even gold digging. I think it was always about getting close enough to you to access your fortune directly. Maya heard footsteps on the stairs outside her apartment. Quick, purposeful steps that could belong to David or to someone else entirely. Lily, how long until security arrives? 3 minutes. The footsteps stopped directly outside Maya's door. A soft knock, then David's voice. Maya? Please, I know you're in there. We need to talk. Maya looked around her small apartment, the space that had represented freedom and anonymity for 6 months, and realized that it had never been her sanctuary. It had always been her trap. And now the people who'd been hunting her had stopped pretending she was the predator. Maya, David's voice was closer now, as if he was speaking directly against the door. I know this is overwhelming, but I need you to understand something. I really do love you. Maya backed away from the door, her phone still pressed to her ear. Lily, she whispered, I think I'm in immediate danger. Maya, whatever you do, don't open that door. Don't let him in. Don't. The lock clicked, and the door swung open. David stepped inside, holding a key Maya had never given him. Hello, Maya, he said, his voice carrying a tone she'd never heard before. We need to have a very different conversation now. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs as David stepped into her apartment, casually closing the door behind him. The key he'd used disappeared into his pocket with practiced ease. Where did you get that key? David's smile was different now, not the warm, slightly uncertain expression she'd fallen in love with, but something calculated and cold. Victoria had one made months ago. Maya, you really thought we didn't know who you were? Maya kept backing away until she hit the kitchen counter. Lily, she said into the phone still pressed to her ear. Call the police. David moved faster than she'd expected, plucking the phone from her hand and ending the call. Maya, please. Sit down. Let me explain what's really happening here. I know what's happening. Your family is broke. You've been lying to me for 6 months, and now you're breaking into my apartment. You're right about the first 2 things. David gestured toward her couch. The same couch where they'd spent countless evenings watching movies, where he'd held her while she told him about her childhood in the orphanage, where she'd let herself believe she'd found something real. But I'm not breaking in. I'm trying to save your life. Maya stared at him. What? Maya, Caroline isn't my mother. Victoria isn't my aunt. And I'm not actually David Blackwood. The floor seemed to shift beneath Maya's feet. Who are you? My name is Daniel Crawford. I'm a federal agent with the Financial Crimes Division. Daniel, reached slowly into his jacket and pulled out a badge. And you've been under federal protection for the past 6 months, even though you didn't know it. Maya felt like she was falling through space. That's impossible. Maya, 3 years ago, someone tried to have you killed. The brake failure on your car that you thought was an accident? It wasn't. The gas leak in your penthouse that forced you to move out for 2 months? Also not an accident. Maya's legs gave out. She sank onto the couch, staring at this man she thought she knew. You're lying. The food poisoning that hospitalized you after the charity gala in Switzerland? Arsenic. Low level, designed to look like an illness rather than an assassination attempt. Daniel's voice was gentle but firm. Maya, someone has been trying to kill you for years, and they've been getting more sophisticated about it. Maya's mind raced through the incidents he'd mentioned. She'd attributed them to bad luck, to the kind of random accidents that happen to everyone. Why would someone want to kill me? Because $14 billion makes you a target in ways you've never understood. But it's not just about your money, Maya. It's about what your money represents. Daniel sat down across from her, careful to maintain distance. Your adoptive parents, the Kensingtons, weren't just wealthy philanthropists. They were involved in international humanitarian efforts that exposed corruption in several foreign governments. When they died in that plane crash, that was an accident. The investigation concluded. The investigation concluded what certain people needed it to conclude. Daniel's voice was matter of fact. Maya, your parents were murdered because they were funding pro-democracy movements in countries where that made them political threats. Maya felt sick. You're saying my parents were killed. I'm saying your parents were targeted because their money was destabilizing corrupt regimes. And when you inherited their fortune, you inherited their enemies. Maya stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. Even if that's true, why the elaborate deception? Why pretend to date me? Because every other protection method failed. Bodyguards were bribed or eliminated. Safe houses were compromised. Traditional witness protection couldn't work because your wealth makes you too high-profile to disappear completely. Daniel stood as well, moving closer. So we created a different kind of protection. We gave you a normal life with a normal boyfriend in a normal apartment. We made you invisible by making you ordinary. Maya turned to face him. And falling in love with me was just part of the job. Daniel's carefully controlled expression cracked slightly. That wasn't supposed to happen. What wasn't supposed to happen? Maya, I was supposed to maintain professional distance. I was supposed to protect you without getting emotionally involved. Daniel ran his hands through his hair. But somewhere between your terrible cooking and the way you light up when you talk about the kids in your literacy programs, I stopped acting and started feeling. Maya felt her heart breaking all over again, but for different reasons now. So the man I fell in love with doesn't exist? The man you fell in love with is me. The background was fake, but everything else, how I feel about you, how you make me laugh, how proud I am when I watch you with those kids, all of that is real. Maya's phone, still in Daniel's hand, buzzed with an incoming call. He glanced at the screen and his face went white. What is it? It's Lily. But Maya, according to our surveillance, Lily was killed 2 hours ago. Maya felt the world tilt sideways. That's impossible. I just talked to her. Daniel answered the call on speaker. Lily's familiar voice filled the apartment, but something was wrong with the tone. Maya, darling, I hope you're enjoying your reunion with Agent Crawford. Maya stared at the phone. Lily. Oh, Maya. Sweet, naive Maya. Did you really think we'd let you play house for 6 months without monitoring every conversation, every relationship, every breath you took? Daniel was already moving toward the window, peering through the blinds. Maya, we need to leave. Now. Lily continued speaking. Maya, I've been working for the people who killed your parents since before you inherited their fortune. Every financial transaction, every security protocol, every attempt to protect yourself, I've been reporting it all. Maya felt like she was going to vomit. You've been watching me for 3 years? I've been managing you for 3 years. The Federal Protection Program? My idea. Agent Crawford's assignment? My suggestion. Even your decision to create a false identity and live modestly? That was planted through your therapist, who's also been on our payroll. Daniel grabbed Maya's arm. We're leaving. Right now. But Maya pulled away from him. No. I need to understand what's happening. Who is we? Who are these people? Lily's laugh was cold. Maya, your parents weren't just funding pro-democracy movements. They were funding the overthrow of governments that control trillions of dollars in natural resources. Oil, lithium, rare earth minerals, the backbone of the global economy. Maya's mind raced. So this is about money. This is about power. Your parents disrupted carefully maintained economic relationships. When they died, everyone assumed their disruptive influence would die with them. But I inherited their money. You inherited their money and their moral convictions. Maya, you've donated over $2 billion to humanitarian causes in the past 3 years. Do you understand what that money has accomplished? Maya thought about the literacy programs, the clean water initiatives, the medical clinics she'd funded around the world. I've helped people. You've destabilized 3 different resource extraction operations, funded opposition movements in 4 countries, and generally continued your parents' work of disrupting very profitable arrangements. Daniel was at the door now, checking the hallway. Maya, we have to go. Whatever they want, we can't let them corner us here. But Maya was starting to understand something that changed everything. They don't want to kill me anymore, do they? Lily's voice carried a hint of approval. Very good, Maya. We've realized that killing you would just transfer your wealth to your designated heirs, who might be even less predictable than you are. So what do you want? We want you to marry Agent Crawford and sign a power of attorney that transfers control of your fortune to a board of advisors who understand how to use money responsibly. Maya stared at Daniel, seeing him clearly for perhaps the first time. And you knew about this plan? Daniel's face was anguished. Maya, I swear to you, I thought I was protecting you. I didn't know about any board of advisors or marriage arrangements. I thought I was keeping you safe until we could identify and arrest the people who killed your parents. But now you know better. Now I know that I've been a pawn in a much bigger game. Daniel looked directly into her eyes. Maya, I need you to know something. Whatever happens next, what I feel for you is real. The past 6 months, getting to know you, falling in love with you, that wasn't an assignment. That was the first genuine thing that's happened to me in years. Maya felt tears starting, but they weren't tears of heartbreak anymore. They were tears of fury. You want to know what I think? Maya said into the phone. Please enlighten us. I think you've made a mistake. A big one. How so? Maya walked to Daniel and took his hand, looking directly into his eyes as she spoke. You've spent 3 years trying to control me by keeping me ignorant. You've manipulated my relationships, my security, my entire life. You've made me feel powerless and isolated and dependent on other people's protection. Maya, Daniel said quietly, what are you thinking? Maya smiled, and for the first time in months, it was the smile of someone who knew exactly who she was and what she was capable of. I'm thinking that you've all forgotten something important about how I built a $14 billion fortune. Which is, I didn't inherit passive wealth, sitting in bank accounts. I inherited an active financial empire that I've been growing and managing for 3 years. Maya's voice was steel. And I'm thinking it's time to remind everyone what happens when you threaten someone who controls the kind of money that can topple governments. Maya looked at Daniel, seeing something shift in his expression from fear to admiration. Daniel, I need to know right now. Are you with me or with them? Daniel squeezed her hand. Maya, I'm with you. Whatever you're planning, I'm with you. Maya picked up her phone. Then we're about to find out exactly how much power $14 billion can buy when it's wielded by someone who's done being afraid. She ended the call and immediately dialed another number. This is Maya Kensington. I need to speak to the president. Yes, it's about a matter of national security. Tell him it's about the people who killed my parents. As Maya waited for the call to connect, she looked around her modest apartment one last time. Maya Chun, the humble nonprofit worker, was about to disappear forever. And Maya Kensington, one of the most powerful people in the world, was about to remind everyone why her parents had been worth killing. The call connected faster than Maya had expected. Miss Kensington. The voice was crisp, professional, and familiar. This is Director Harrison from the National Security Council. The president asked me to take your call personally. Maya felt Daniel's hand tighten around hers as she put the phone on speaker. Director Harrison, I need to report a conspiracy involving the murders of American citizens abroad and the attempted manipulation of a major private fortune. Miss Kensington, we're aware of your situation. In fact, we've been monitoring the threats against you for some time. Maya felt her stomach drop. You've known about this? The Kensington Foundation's international activities have significant implications for American foreign policy. Your parents' work, and now yours, affects relationships with several allied governments. Daniel was shaking his head, his expression grim. Maya realized with growing horror that the conspiracy was even larger than she'd imagined. Director Harrison, are you telling me that the American government is involved in the attempts on my life? I'm telling you that your safety is a priority, but it must be balanced against broader national security interests. Maya felt the last of her illusions crumble. Which means what exactly? Which means Agent Crawford's assignment wasn't just to protect you. It was to monitor your activities and ensure that your financial decisions align with American strategic interests. Maya looked at Daniel, searching his face for any sign that he'd known about this broader mission. What she saw there was genuine shock and betrayal. Daniel, she said quietly, did you know? Maya, I swear to you, my orders were to protect you from foreign threats. I was never told about monitoring your finances or controlling your decisions. Director Harrison's voice cut through their conversation. Agent Crawford, you're needed for immediate debriefing. Please report to the federal building within the hour. I'm not leaving Maya, Daniel said firmly. Agent Crawford, that wasn't a request. Maya felt the walls closing in around them. The apartment that had been her sanctuary was now a trap. The man she'd fallen in love with was caught between competing loyalties, and even her own government saw her as a problem to be managed rather than a citizen to be protected. Director Harrison, Maya said, her voice gaining strength, I think you've misunderstood something fundamental about this situation. Which is, you think I'm a wealthy civilian who needs government guidance about how to use her money responsibly. But I'm actually a wealthy civilian who employs more people than most corporations and has financial relationships with governments around the world. Maya walked to her laptop, a modest device that looked nothing like the high-end equipment a billionaire might use, and opened a secure connection to her real financial systems. Daniel, look at this screen. Tell me what you see. Daniel moved behind her, reading over her shoulder. Those are bond holdings. Government bonds. Not just any government bonds. I own approximately 7% of the current United States national debt. The silence on the phone was deafening. Director Harrison, are you still there? Miss Kensington, we need to discuss this in person. No, we need to discuss this right now. Because while you've been treating me like a potential security threat, I've been one of the largest creditors keeping your government financially stable. Maya pulled up another screen. Daniel, what do you see here? Bank transfers. Millions of dollars moving to humanitarian organizations in Syria, Afghanistan, Ukraine. Organizations that provide medical care and refugee assistance in regions where the American government can't officially operate. Maya's voice was getting colder. Director Harrison, I've been funding off-the-books humanitarian aid that supports American foreign policy objectives for 3 years. Miss Kensington, I'm not finished. Daniel, what else do you see on this screen? Daniel was scrolling through financial records, his expression shifting from confusion to awe. Corporate acquisitions. You own. Maya, you own significant stakes in defense contractors, tech companies, pharmaceutical firms. Companies that hold major government contracts. Companies whose stability affects American economic security. Maya's smile was sharp. Director Harrison, I'm not just a wealthy woman whose activities you need to monitor. I'm a financial partner whose cooperation you desperately need. Maya heard voices in the background of the phone call, urgent conversations about damage control and strategic reassessment. Miss Kensington, perhaps we should arrange a meeting. Perhaps you should start by calling off whatever operations you have targeting me and explaining why a federal agent was assigned to seduce me under false pretenses. Maya looked at Daniel, seeing him process the full scope of what she'd just revealed. She wasn't just wealthy, she was a shadow player in global politics and economics. Daniel, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Anything. When you were assigned to protect me, were you given any information about the scope of my financial activities? Daniel shook his head. They told me you were a wealthy philanthropist whose parents had been murdered by foreign operatives. They said you were naive about security and needed protection while they identified the threats. But they didn't tell you that I own pieces of the infrastructure that keeps several allied governments operational. Maya, Daniel ran his hands through his hair. This changes everything. Maya's laptop chimed with an incoming secure message. She opened it and felt her blood turn to ice. Daniel, we have a bigger problem. What now? Maya turned the laptop screen toward him. The message was simple. *, we have the children from your literacy program in Bangladesh. If you want them to live, you'll transfer $50 million to the attached account within the next hour. No police, no government involvement, or 27 children die. *. Daniel stared at the message. Maya, this has to be a bluff. Maya was already pulling up another secure connection, this one to the director of her Bangladesh operation. The video call connected immediately, showing a woman in obvious distress. Miss Chin, thank God. They took the children 3 hours ago. Armed men, professional. They knew exactly where the school was, which children would be there. Maya felt the room spinning around her. Rashida, how many children? 27, ages 6 to 12. The ones from the reading program you visited last month. Maya remembered those children, bright faces eager to show her their English reading skills, tiny hands that had held hers as she'd promised them that education would give them better futures. Have you contacted local authorities? Miss Chin, the men said they had someone inside the police force. They said if we contacted anyone, the children would disappear forever. Maya ended the call and immediately opened her banking interface. Daniel grabbed her hand. Maya, you can't just pay them. It'll never end. Those are children, Daniel. Real children who trusted me to keep them safe. And if you pay $50 million now, tomorrow they'll take children from your programs in Kenya, Guatemala, the Philippines. Maya, you fund educational programs in over 30 countries. They could hold thousands of children hostage. Maya stared at the transfer screen, her finger hovering over the authorization button. $50 million was a significant sum, but not one that would seriously damage her financial position. But Daniel was right. Once she paid, every child in every program she funded would become a potential target. Maya, Director Harrison's voice cut through her internal struggle. We have assets in Bangladesh. We can. Don't. Maya's voice was sharp. Your assets failed to prevent 27 children from being kidnapped from a school I fund. I'm not trusting their lives to the same people who've been lying to me for months. Maya stood up and began pacing, her mind racing through possibilities. Daniel, how quickly could you get a tactical team to Dhaka? Maya, I can't authorize military operations in foreign countries. I'm not asking you to authorize anything. I'm asking how quickly you could get there if you had unlimited resources and diplomatic immunity. Daniel stared at her. You can arrange diplomatic immunity? I can arrange a lot of things when 27 children's lives are at stake. Maya picked up her phone and dialed another number. This is Maya Kensington. I need to speak to Ambassador Patterson immediately. Yes, it's an emergency. While she waited for the call to connect, Maya looked at Daniel. I need to know right now, are you with me, or are you going to follow orders that might get those children killed? Daniel's response was immediate. I'm with you. Whatever you need. The ambassador came on the line. Maya, I heard about the situation. We're prepared to offer full cooperation. I need a State Department jet to Dhaka, a tactical team with rescue experience, and complete operational autonomy. No oversight, no questions, no reporting requirements. Maya, you know I can't authorize a military operation. Ambassador Patterson, check your email. I'm sending you documentation of a transfer I made to the U.S. Treasury yesterday. $750 million in emergency funding for refugee assistance programs. Maya heard typing in the background. Maya, this is unprecedented. So is kidnapping children to extort money from American citizens. Ambassador, I'm not asking for American military resources. I'm asking for transportation and documentation for a private security team that I'm funding personally. More silence, more background conversations. Maya, if this goes wrong, I accept full responsibility. If it goes right, 27 children go home to their families tonight. Maya looked at Daniel. Are you ready to save some kids? Daniel's smile was the first genuine expression she'd seen from him all day. Maya, I've been ready for this mission my entire career. Maya felt something settling into place in her chest. Not just determination, but clarity about who she really was and what her money was actually for. Director Harrison, are you still listening? Yes, Miss Kensington. I want you to understand something. For 3 years, you've been treating me like a potential threat to be managed. But I'm not a threat. I'm an asset you've been too stupid to properly utilize. Maya began typing rapidly on her laptop, accessing financial systems that most people didn't know existed. I'm about to demonstrate what $14 billion can accomplish when it's deployed by someone who's done being manipulated by people who mistake wealth for weakness. As Maya coordinated the most expensive rescue operation in modern history, she felt the last traces of Maya Chun, the humble nonprofit worker, disappearing forever. The woman coordinating satellite surveillance, private military contractors, and international diplomatic pressure, was someone entirely different. Someone who had just remembered that money wasn't just a number in an account. It was power. And power, when used correctly, could save lives. The private jet was 30 minutes out from Dhaka when Maya's secure satellite phone rang with a call that made her blood freeze. The caller ID showed a number she recognized. Her own personal emergency line, the one that only 3 people in the world had access to. 3 people who were all supposed to be dead, captured, or sitting right next to her. Maya looked at Daniel, who was reviewing tactical maps with the security team she'd assembled. He was completely focused on the mission, radiating the kind of professional competence that had made her fall in love with him in the first place. She answered the call. "Hello, Maya." The voice belonged to her adoptive father, Robert Kensington, dead for 3 years in a plane crash that Maya had mourned at a closed-casket funeral she'd arranged herself. "That's impossible," Maya whispered, moving to the back of the jet where she couldn't be overheard. "Many things are impossible, my dear. Yet here we are." Maya's hands were shaking so violently she could barely hold the phone. "You died. I saw the crash site. I identified your effects. You saw what we needed you to see. Maya, sit down. This conversation is going to be difficult." Maya sank into one of the jet's leather seats, her mind reeling. "Why? Why would you fake your death? Why would you let me think? Because we needed you to become who you are now." Maya, the scared, dependent girl who inherited our fortune 3 years ago, could never have built the kind of global influence you've developed. Maya felt sick. "You've been watching me this entire time? We've been guiding you. The therapist who suggested you create a false identity? Our recommendation. The federal protection program that introduced you to Agent Crawford? Our design." Maya looked toward the front of the jet, where Daniel was coordinating with ground teams in Bangladesh. "Daniel knows. Agent Crawford knows exactly what we've told him to know. Maya, he's been an unwitting participant in a 3-year program designed to help you discover your own capabilities." "What kind of program?" "Think about it, darling. 3 years ago, you were a timid young woman who let financial advisors manage your money and made charitable donations based on other people's recommendations. Today, you're coordinating international rescue operations and manipulating government policy through strategic investments." Maya's mind raced through the past 3 years. Every challenge she'd faced, every decision she'd been forced to make, every crisis that had pushed her to become more resourceful and independent. "You've been creating situations to force me to grow. We've been creating situations to help you realize your potential. Maya, you're not just wealthy. You're one of the most powerful people in the world. But power without wisdom is meaningless, and wisdom without testing is worthless." Maya felt everything she thought she knew about her life crumbling around her. "The people who tried to kill me were very real threats that we neutralized while you believed you were in danger. Maya, the brake failure, the gas leak, the poisoning, all of those were real assassination attempts by people who wanted to steal or control your inheritance. But you stopped them. We stopped them, and we used the threat they represented to justify the protection program that put Agent Crawford in your life." Maya looked at Daniel again, seeing him with new eyes. "He doesn't know he's been manipulated. Agent Crawford believes he's been protecting you from foreign operatives while serving his country. His feelings for you are genuine, his dedication is real, and his skills are exactly what we needed to keep you safe while you learn to use your power." Maya felt tears starting. "And the children in Bangladesh?" Silence on the other end of the line. "Dad, please tell me the children are real." "The children are real, Maya. But the kidnapping is a simulation." Maya's world exploded. "What?" "The children are safe, hidden in a secure location with our people. The ransom demand, the urgency, the threat, all designed to force you to mobilize resources on a scale that would demonstrate your true capabilities to yourself and to others." Maya stood up abruptly, her voice rising. "You used children as props in your psychological experiment?" Daniel looked back at her, concern evident on his face. Maya forced herself to lower her voice. "Maya, the children were never in real danger. But your response to the perceived threat has been exactly what we hoped. In the past 4 hours, you've coordinated international intelligence assets, arranged diplomatic immunity, and deployed private military resources with efficiency that most governments can't match." Maya felt rage building in her chest like a physical force. "You manipulated me into thinking children were going to die, so I would prove I could save them. We created a scenario where you would stop thinking like a victim and start acting like the powerful woman you actually are." Maya looked around the jet, at the tactical team she'd assembled, at the equipment she'd purchased, at Daniel coordinating a rescue mission for children who weren't actually in danger. How long has this been planned? Maya, your entire life has been planned. Your adoption, your education, your inheritance, your protection, your training, all designed to create someone capable of wielding enormous influence responsibly. My adoption was part of this? Your birth parents died in a factory accident caused by corporate negligence that we were investigating. We arranged your adoption not just to save you, but to give you the resources and motivation to prevent similar tragedies from happening to other children. Maya felt like she was dissolving. Who are you? Who are we? We're people who believe that concentrated wealth can be a force for good when it's guided by someone with the intelligence, compassion, and strength to use it properly. Maya, you're not just our daughter. You're our life's work. Maya hung up the phone and immediately called Lily's number. The real Lily, not the voice that had been threatening her. Lily answered on the first ring. Maya, thank God. Are you safe? Lily, I need you to tell me the truth about something. Of course. Are my parents alive? Long silence. Lily. Maya, where are you right now? I'm on a plane to Bangladesh to rescue children who my father just told me aren't actually in danger. Maya, get off that plane. Now. What? Maya, I've been trying to reach you for hours. Your parents are alive, but they're not the people you think they are. And Agent Crawford isn't who you think he is either. Maya felt the world shifting beneath her feet again. Explain. Maya, the Kensingtons aren't your adoptive parents. They're international arms dealers who've been using your humanitarian foundation to launder money and traffic weapons to conflict zones around the world. Maya sat down hard. That's impossible. Maya, every charity you fund, every educational program you support, they're all fronts for arms trafficking operations. The literacy program in Bangladesh? It's been smuggling weapons to insurgent groups for 2 years. Maya looked toward Daniel, who was still coordinating with ground teams. And Daniel? Agent Crawford is real FBI, but he's not working protection. He's working undercover to gather evidence of your involvement in international arms trafficking. Maya felt everything she believed about herself, her parents, her work, and her relationships collapsing simultaneously. Lily, if that's true, then the past 3 years. The past 3 years, you've been unknowingly financing some of the deadliest conflicts in the world. Maya, you're not a philanthropist. You're one of the largest arms dealers on the planet. Maya hung up and stared at Daniel, who was walking toward her with a concerned expression. Maya, are you all right? You look like you've seen a ghost. Maya studied his face, the face she'd learned to love, the face she'd trusted completely, and realized she had no idea who he really was or what he really wanted. Daniel, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Always. What exactly is your mission regarding me? Daniel's expression shifted almost imperceptibly. Maya, my mission is to protect you. From what? From people who want to hurt you. Maya stood up. That's not what I asked. What is your specific assignment regarding Maya Kensington? Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Maya, we should focus on the rescue mission. Daniel, there is no rescue mission. The children aren't in danger. Daniel's face went white. How do you know that? Because my supposedly dead father just called to tell me that this entire situation is a psychological test designed to see how I respond to crisis. Maya watched Daniel's expression cycle through surprise, confusion, and something that looked like relief. Maya, if the children are safe, then we can. Daniel, stop lying to me. What is your real assignment? Daniel looked around the jet, at the tactical team who were still preparing for a mission that would never happen, at the equipment and resources Maya had mobilized based on lies. Maya, my assignment was to gather evidence of your involvement in international weapons trafficking while keeping you from discovering that you were under investigation. Maya felt the last piece of her heart break. So you were never protecting me. You were building a case against me. Maya, I thought I was doing both. I thought, Daniel's voice cracked. I thought I was protecting you from people who wanted to harm you while investigating whether you were knowingly involved in criminal activities. And what did you conclude? I concluded that you're either the most brilliant criminal mastermind in history or the most manipulated victim I've ever encountered. Maya looked at this man she'd fallen in love with, this man who'd been investigating her for crimes she didn't even know she was committing. Which do you think I am, Daniel? Daniel looked directly into her eyes. Maya, I think you're the victim. I think someone has been using your wealth and your good intentions to commit terrible crimes while keeping you completely unaware of what was happening. And now, Now I think we're both victims of people who are much smarter and much more dangerous than either of us realized. Maya felt something crystallizing in her chest. Not heartbreak, not betrayal, but a cold, hard determination. Daniel, I need you to make a choice. Right now. What kind of choice? You can continue following your assignment and arrest me for crimes I didn't knowingly commit. Or you can help me figure out who's been using my money to hurt people and make them pay for what they've done. Daniel didn't hesitate. Maya, I'm with you. Whatever you need. Even if it means choosing me over your career, your agency, your country. Even if it means choosing what's right over what's legal. Maya smiled, and for the first time in hours, it was a real smile. Then let's go expose some arms dealers and save some children. As Maya began coordinating a very different kind of operation, she realized something that changed everything. She wasn't the victim anymore. She was the weapon. And she was about to find out exactly how much damage $14 billion could do when wielded by someone who was done being anyone's pawn. The plane's communication system crackled to life as they approached Bangladeshi airspace, but instead of air traffic control, Maya heard her father's voice again. Maya, I'm afraid we need to discuss some complications. Daniel immediately moved to Maya's side, his training taking over as he scanned the cabin for threats. The tactical team had gone silent, their equipment suddenly seeming inadequate for whatever was coming. What complications? Maya's voice was steel. Maya, Agent Crawford's superiors have just issued a warrant for your arrest. International terrorism, arms trafficking, money laundering. The charges are quite extensive. Maya felt the blood drain from her face. Based on what evidence? Based on financial records that Agent Crawford has been collecting for 6 months. Banking transactions, wire transfers, charitable donations, all of which have been traced to weapons purchases and terrorist financing operations. Maya looked at Daniel, whose expression had gone from protective to horrified. Daniel, tell me you didn't. Maya, every report I filed was about protecting you. I documented the threats against you, your security needs, your emotional state. Daniel's voice cracked. I never reported financial information that could be used to build a criminal case. Actually, Agent Crawford, you did. Robert Kensington's voice carried a tone of paternal disappointment. Every security assessment you filed included details about Maya's financial habits, her decision-making processes, her charitable giving patterns. Information that, when analyzed by people who understand how money laundering operations work, painted a very clear picture. Maya sank into her seat, understanding hitting her like a physical blow. You used his protection reports to frame me. We used his protection reports to document your activities accurately. Maya, the fact that those activities constitute federal crimes isn't our fault, it's yours. Daniel was on his feet, pacing the narrow aisle. Mr. Kensington, Maya had no knowledge of any weapons trafficking. Every charitable donation she made was based on information you provided to her. Agent Crawford, intent is notoriously difficult to prove in federal court. What matters is the flow of money, and Maya has been personally authorizing transfers that funded weapons purchases for 3 years. Maya's laptop chimed with an incoming message. She opened it to find a video file that made her stomach lurch. The footage showed children, real children, not actors, running through what appeared to be a war zone. Buildings destroyed by explosions, families fleeing gunfire, medics treating wounds that could only have been caused by military-grade weapons. Maya, her father's voice continued. This is footage from Syria taken last month. The weapons being used in this conflict were purchased with money from your educational foundation. Maya watched in horror as a school that looked exactly like the ones her literacy programs had built, was reduced to rubble by artillery fire. The children's hospital in Yemen that was bombed last week? The medical supplies that exploded were shipped through your humanitarian aid network. More footage. More destruction. More innocent people dying because of money that had passed through accounts bearing her name. Maya, Daniel said quietly, you couldn't have known. It doesn't matter what I knew, Maya whispered. Children are dead because of my money. Maya's phone rang. Another number she recognized. This one belonging to her head of security in Switzerland. Miss Kensington Shin. The voice was urgent, panicked. We have a situation. Tommy Blackwood has been taken. Maya's blood turned to ice. What? David Blackwood's stepson. He was taken from his school 20 minutes ago by armed men. They left a message. Maya put the call on speaker. Daniel moved closer, his training warring with personal concern on his face. What message? They want you to turn yourself in to international authorities within 12 hours, or the boy dies. They said to tell you that this time, it's not a simulation. Maya stared at Daniel, seeing her own anguish reflected in his eyes. Tommy, innocent, sweet Tommy who called Daniel dad and still believed in fairy tale endings, was paying the price for Maya's involvement with people she'd never even known she was dealing with. Maya, her father's voice came through the plane's communication system. I'm afraid the situation is more complex than that. How could it possibly be more complex? Because Tommy wasn't taken by external threats. He was taken by federal agents. Maya felt the world tilt. What? Daniel grabbed the radio. This is Agent Crawford. What agency authorized an operation involving a civilian child? Agent Crawford. No agency authorized anything. Tommy Blackwood was taken into protective custody because his life was threatened by people associated with Maya Kensington's criminal organization. I don't have a criminal organization, Maya shouted. Maya, her father's voice was maddeningly calm. You do. You've been running one for 3 years without knowing it. Every employee of every charity you fund, every contractor you hire, every financial advisor you trust, they're all part of a network that has been using your money to destabilize governments and fuel conflicts around the world. Maya's hands were shaking as she pulled up her financial records on her laptop. Show me. Show me exactly how my money has been used. What she saw on the screen made her physically ill. Wire transfers to companies that manufactured weapons. Payments to shipping companies that transported arms to conflict zones. Salaries for employees who didn't exist. Paid to bank accounts in countries where her charities supposedly operated. Maya, Daniel said, reading over her shoulder. Some of these transactions, you authorized them personally. Maya stared at the screen, recognizing her own digital signatures on documents approving payments she'd thought were for school supplies, medical equipment, educational materials. I signed purchase orders for books and computers, Maya whispered. How did those become weapons purchases? Because the companies you thought you were buying from don't exist. They're shell corporations designed to convert charitable purchases into arms deals. Maya scrolled through transaction after transaction, each one bearing her authorization, each one funding violence she'd never intended to support. Maya, her father continued, you've been signing death warrants for 3 years while thinking you were signing donation approvals. Daniel was already on his phone, calling someone at the bureau. This is Agent Crawford. I need immediate confirmation of Tommy Blackwood's status and location. Pause. What do you mean there's no record of any protective custody operation? Maya felt panic rising in her chest. Daniel, where is Tommy? Maya, according to the FBI, there is no operation involving Tommy Blackwood. There's no protective custody, no federal involvement. Which means he's been taken by the same people who have been using me as a front for arms dealing, Maya finished. Maya's phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. Asterisk, you have 10 hours to transfer control of your entire fortune to the account numbers we're sending you. If you refuse, Tommy Blackwood dies. If you contact authorities, Tommy Blackwood dies. If you try to trace this message, Tommy Blackwood dies. Asterisk. Maya stared at the message, understanding the impossible choice she was being forced to make. She could save Tommy by giving up control of her fortune. Money that would then be used to fund even more violence around the world. Or she could refuse to cooperate and let an innocent child die for her principles. Maya, Daniel said quietly, we'll find another way. There is no other way. Maya's voice was hollow. If I give them control of my money, thousands more children die in conflicts they'll fund. If I don't give them control, Tommy dies and they take the money anyway through legal proceedings after I'm convicted of terrorism. Maya looked around the jet, at the tactical team she'd assembled based on lies, at the equipment she'd purchased with blood money, at Daniel who'd been unknowingly helping to build a case against her. Daniel, I need you to understand something. What? I'm about to do something that will destroy any chance we have of being together. Daniel's face went pale. Maya, what are you thinking? I'm thinking that the only way to save Tommy and stop these people from using my money to hurt others is to make sure there's no money left to steal. Maya's fingers flew across her laptop keyboard, accessing banking systems that controlled more wealth than most countries possessed. Maya, what are you doing? I'm liquidating everything. Every investment, every asset, every dollar in every account. Maya's voice was getting stronger with each keystroke. If these people want my fortune, they can have it. but they'll have to take it from the charitable organizations that are receiving it right now. Maya was transferring billions of dollars in real time to established humanitarian organizations, medical research foundations, educational institutions around the world. Organizations with their own oversight, their own accountability measures, their own ability to ensure the money would be used legitimately. Maya, you're giving away $14 billion. I'm making sure that $14 billion can never be used to buy weapons again. But even as Maya typed, she knew it wouldn't be enough. The people controlling her would find ways to reclaim the money, to prosecute her for the crimes they'd committed in her name, to hurt everyone she cared about. Maya's phone rang. Her father again. Maya, that's very dramatic but ultimately pointless. We control your legal identity, your financial history, your reputation. Even if you give away every penny, you'll still be prosecuted for the crimes committed with your money. Tommy will still die. And we'll still have accomplished our objectives. What objectives? Maya screamed. What is this really about? This is about demonstrating that even the most powerful people in the world are ultimately powerless when they don't understand the systems they're operating within. Maya, you thought you were in control of your fortune, but you were never in control of anything. Maya felt something breaking inside her chest, not just her heart, but her fundamental understanding of who she was and what her life had meant. You created me to destroy me. We created you to prove a point. That wealth without wisdom is meaningless, that power without understanding is dangerous, and that good intentions without proper knowledge can cause more harm than deliberate evil. As Maya sat surrounded by the wreckage of everything she'd believed about herself, her wealth, and her relationships, she realized that her father was right about one thing. She had been powerless all along. But powerlessness, Maya was beginning to understand, could be its own kind of power. If she had nothing left to lose, she could finally stop playing by everyone else's rules. The question was whether she could figure out how to save Tommy before she lost the last thing that mattered to her. And whether Daniel would still be willing to help her when he realized that loving her might cost him everything he'd worked for. Maya stared at her laptop screen showing her bank balances dropping toward zero as billions transferred to legitimate charities around the world. But her phone buzzed with a message that stopped her cold. Asterisk transfer reversed. All funds returned to original accounts. Tommy Blackwood has 6 hours. Try that again and he dies slowly. Asterisk. That's impossible, Maya whispered. Those were completed transfers to verified organizations. Daniel was reading over her shoulder. Maya, look at the recipient accounts. Maya's blood turned to ice. Every single charity she'd just donated to, organizations she'd researched meticulously, were showing the same administrative contact, Victoria Walsh. Rebecca's supposed aunt, Maya breathed. The woman who's been watching me for months. Maya's phone rang. This time, it wasn't her father. It was Victoria herself. Hello, Maya. I think it's time we had an honest conversation. Where's Tommy? Tommy is safe for now. But Maya, I need you to understand something. Your father isn't the one running this operation. Maya felt the ground shift beneath her feet again. What? Robert Kensington is a victim, just like you. Maya, I've been managing this entire situation from the beginning. Daniel grabbed Maya's hand, squeezing tightly as they processed this latest revelation. Victoria, who are you really? I'm someone who's spent 20 years building a network designed to expose how easily wealth can be weaponized. Maya, your parents weren't arms dealers. They were targets of arms dealers who needed to be eliminated. Maya sank into her seat. My parents were trying to stop arms trafficking? Your parents discovered that several major charitable foundations were being used to launder money for weapons sales. They were killed because they threatened to expose the entire network. And you've been using me too. I've been using you to trace every connection in that network. Maya, every transaction you've made, every charity you've supported, every person you've trusted. I've been mapping the entire criminal organization through your activities. Maya stared at Daniel, seeing her own confusion reflected in his eyes. Victoria, if you're one of the good guys, why is Tommy in danger? Because Tommy isn't in danger from me. He's in danger from the real arms dealers who just realized that their entire operation has been exposed. Maya's laptop chimed with an incoming video call. The screen showed Tommy, alive, unharmed, sitting in what looked like a comfortable room with children's books and toys around him. Maya. Tommy's voice was bright, excited. Look where I am. The nice lady said you sent me here because there might be dangerous people looking for me. A woman moved into frame, Someone Maya had never seen before, but whose face radiated the kind of competent warmth that made Maya immediately trust her. Miss Kensington, I'm Dr. Sarah Mills. Tommy is in a secure facility designed to protect children of people involved in federal investigations. He's safe, he's comfortable, and he has no idea there's any danger. Maya felt relief flooding through her. Tommy, are you okay? Are they treating you well? Maya, it's like a fun hotel. They have every video game ever made and ice cream for lunch. Tommy's grin was infectious. When can I see David again? Maya looked at Daniel, David, seeing the love and relief on his face as he watched the boy who'd become his son. Soon, buddy. Very soon. After the call ended, Maya turned to Victoria. If Tommy's safe, what's the real situation? The real situation is that in the past 6 hours, you've helped us identify and freeze assets belonging to the largest arms trafficking network in the world. Maya, your donation transfers weren't reversed by the criminals. They were redirected by us to accounts we control. Maya's mind raced. You've been using my financial activities to trace money laundering operations. For 3 years. Maya, every charitable donation you made was simultaneously traced to see how the money moved through criminal networks. Every relationship you formed was monitored to identify who was trying to exploit your wealth. Daniel stood up abruptly. Victoria, what about my investigation? What about the evidence I've been collecting? Victoria smiled. Agent Crawford, there is no federal investigation of Maya Kensington. There never was. You've been participating in an undercover operation designed to protect her, while she unknowingly helped us build cases against international arms dealers. Maya felt like she was falling through space again. Daniel, your feelings for me are completely real, Daniel said quickly. Maya, I may have been assigned to protect you under false pretenses, but everything I feel for you is genuine. Victoria pulled out a tablet and showed them both a complex organizational chart. Maya, this is what we've been building. Names, faces, bank accounts, shipping routes, government contacts. The entire structure of a network that's been fueling conflicts around the world for decades. Maya studied the chart, recognizing some names and faces from charity events, social gatherings, business meetings she'd attended over the past 3 years. These people were all using me. These people were all thinking they were using you. In reality, you were helping us use them. Maya felt something shifting in her chest. Not relief, exactly, but a growing understanding of her own power that had nothing to do with money. Victoria, what happens now? Now you make a choice that will define who you are for the rest of your life. Victoria pulled up another screen showing financial records. Maya, we've recovered $14.7 billion in stolen assets that were being laundered through the criminal network. Money taken from pension funds, aid organizations, government treasuries around the world. You want me to return it? I want you to decide what to do with it. This money could go back to the governments and organizations it was stolen from. It could be used to rebuild communities destroyed by conflicts these weapons sales fueled. Or it could become the foundation for a new kind of humanitarian organization, one that you control directly. Maya looked at Daniel, then back at Victoria. What's the catch? The catch is that if you choose to take control of this money, you become a target again. The people we've arrested were middle management. The real power behind this network is still out there, and they'll come after you. And if I don't take control, then you walk away. You disappear into a normal life with Agent Crawford, raise Tommy together, and let other people handle the responsibility of fixing the damage that's been done. Maya stared at the screens showing money that could feed millions, educate thousands, rebuild entire communities. Money that could also make her a target for the rest of her life. Maya, Daniel said quietly, whatever you choose, I'm with you. Even if I choose the dangerous path? Especially if you choose the dangerous path. Maya, I've watched you coordinate international rescue operations, manipulate government policy, and outmaneuver some of the smartest criminals in the world. I'd rather face any threat in the world with you than be safe without you. Maya felt tears starting, not of sadness, but of a joy so profound it was almost painful. Victoria, I need to understand something. If I take control of this money, what happens to the criminal network? They go to prison. All of them. Maya, your financial activities over the past 3 years have given us enough evidence to dismantle the entire operation. And if I walk away, the evidence stands on its own. The prosecutions go forward. But without your continued involvement, we can't prevent new networks from forming. Maya understood the choice now. She could have a normal life with the man she loved, or she could accept the responsibility of using unprecedented wealth to prevent future conflicts. She could choose personal happiness or global impact. Daniel, she said slowly, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Always. If I choose to take control of this money, to become someone who can prevent wars and save lives on a massive scale, can you love someone who will always be in danger? Someone who will never have a normal life? Daniel's answer was immediate. Maya, I fell in love with someone who was willing to spend $50 million to save children she'd never met. I fell in love with someone who could coordinate international operations from a laptop. I didn't fall in love with normal. I fell in love with extraordinary. Maya smiled, feeling something settling into place in her chest. Victoria, I'll take the money. All of it. Maya, are you sure? This means I stop being someone who stumbles into power and start being someone who wields it intentionally. This means I become the person my parents died trying to become. Maya stood up, feeling stronger and more certain than she had in her entire life. But I have conditions. Name them. Daniel remains my partner in everything. Not as a federal agent pretending to be my boyfriend, but as my equal partner in building something better. Victoria looked at Daniel, who nodded immediately. Tommy becomes my adopted son, legally and officially. He deserves stability and security, and I want him to have both. Agreed. And Victoria, you become my director of operations. I don't want to run this alone, and I don't want to ever again be manipulated by people who think they know better than I do. Victoria smiled. Maya, it would be an honor. Maya looked around the jet, at the tactical equipment she'd assembled, at the resources she'd mobilized, at the people who'd become her family through crisis and revelation. Then let's go home and start building something that will make sure no child ever again pays the price for adult greed and stupidity. As the jet began its approach to land, Maya felt something she'd never experienced before. She felt like herself. Not Maya Chun, the humble nonprofit worker. Not Maya Kensington Chun, the wealthy heiress. But Maya, someone who understood that real power came not from hiding who you were, but from embracing who you could become. And the woman she was becoming was someone worth falling in love with. The moment Maya's plane touched down at the private airfield outside Washington, D.C., she knew something was wrong. There were too many people waiting for them. Government vehicles, media crews, and, most concerning of all, an entire security detail that Victoria clearly hadn't expected. Maya, Victoria said, her voice tight with tension. This wasn't part of the plan. Daniel was already on his radio, trying to reach his superiors, but getting only static in response. The tactical team Maya had assembled was checking their weapons, clearly recognizing a potential threat situation. Victoria, who are these people? I don't know. But Maya, I need you to stay close to me and follow my lead until we can. Victoria's words were cut off by a familiar voice speaking through the plane's communication system. Maya Kensington Chin, this is Director Harrison. Please exit the aircraft for immediate debriefing. Maya felt her stomach drop. The same Director Harrison who'd been monitoring her situation, who'd known about Daniel's assignment, who'd been part of the government's involvement in her protection. Victoria, we need to leave. Now. But as Maya looked out the plane's windows, she realized they were completely surrounded. Government agents, local police, and what appeared to be international representatives were positioned around the aircraft in a formation that was clearly designed to prevent escape rather than provide protection. Maya, Daniel said, ending his radio call, my agency is ordering me to place you under federal arrest. Maya stared at him. What? Based on evidence of international terrorism, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit crimes against humanity. Daniel's voice was hollow. Maya, they're saying the evidence is overwhelming. Victoria was frantically typing on her tablet. That's impossible. All the evidence we gathered points to Maya being a victim, not a perpetrator. Maya's mind raced through everything that had happened over the past few days. The revelations about her parents, the arms-dealing network, the recovered stolen money. All of it had seemed to point toward a resolution where she could use her wealth to make amends for crimes committed in her name. But what if that narrative itself was another manipulation? Victoria, Maya said slowly, show me the evidence you've collected. All of it. Victoria pulled up files on her tablet, displaying financial records, communication logs, organizational charts that supposedly proved Maya's innocence. Maya studied the data with the same analytical mind that had built her fortune and managed her investments for 3 years. And what she saw made her blood freeze. Victoria, These records don't exonerate me. They implicate me more deeply. What do you mean? Look at the dates. Look at the transaction patterns. Maya was pointing at specific entries on the screen. This data shows that I personally authorized weapons purchases, that I knew exactly what my money was being used for. Victoria's face went pale. Maya, that's not possible. The evidence clearly shows. The evidence clearly shows that I've been running an international arms dealing operation for 3 years while pretending to be an ignorant victim. Maya looked at Daniel, seeing horror dawning in his expression as he reviewed the same data. Maya, this can't be right. Daniel, it's not right. But it's what this evidence proves. Maya stood up, feeling a cold clarity settling over her. Victoria, you haven't been protecting me from arms dealers. You've been gathering evidence to frame me as an arms dealer. Victoria's composure cracked completely. Maya, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. Maya's voice was ice. For 3 years, I've been the convenient patsy for a criminal network that needed someone wealthy and naive to take the blame when their operation was eventually exposed. Maya moved toward the airplane door, her mind working faster than it ever had before. Everyone involved in this situation, my fake parents, the government agents, the supposed criminals, even you, has been working together to create the perfect fall guy. Maya, where are you going? I'm going to surrender to authorities who think they have an airtight case against me. Maya's smile was sharp as broken glass. And then I'm going to prove that I've been recording everything. Maya pulled out her phone and opened an app that Daniel and Victoria had never seen before. For 3 years, every conversation I've had, every meeting I've attended, every phone call I've received has been automatically recorded and uploaded to secure servers around the world. Victoria and Daniel stared at her in shock. Maya, Daniel said, you've been recording us? I've been recording everyone. Every federal agent who briefed me about threats. Every family member who manipulated me. Every supposed victim who asked for my help. Maya's voice was gaining strength with every word. Including every conversation where people discussed how to use my money for arms dealing while keeping me ignorant of their activities. Maya showed them her phone screen, displaying files organized by date, location, and participants. Thousands of hours of audio and video documentation. Maya, this is... Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. This is evidence that will destroy everyone who's been using me. Evidence that proves I was deliberately kept ignorant while my money was stolen and my reputation was systematically destroyed. Maya opened the airplane door and stepped onto the tarmac, facing the assembled law enforcement officers and media crews with the confidence of someone who held all the cards. Director Harrison, she called out, her voice carrying across the airfield. I understand you want to arrest me for international terrorism. Miss Kensington Chin, you have the right to remain silent. I waive that right. Maya's voice was clear, projecting to every microphone and camera pointed in her direction. I want to make a statement. Maya pulled out her phone and connected it to a portable speaker system she'd had installed in her tactical gear. For 3 years, I've been the victim of an elaborate conspiracy designed to use my inherited wealth to fund international arms dealing while creating evidence that would make me appear to be the mastermind of the operation. Maya hit play on the first recording, a conversation between Director Harrison and someone identified as Control, discussing how to maintain the subject's ignorance while maximizing operational utility. The director's voice, crystal clear through the speakers, discussing Maya as an asset to be manipulated rather than a citizen to be protected. Every person who has claimed to be protecting me has actually been building a case against me. Every person who has claimed to love me has been gathering evidence to destroy me. Maya looked directly at Daniel, seeing genuine shock and betrayal on his face as he realized the scope of the deception. Agent Crawford, you've been an unwitting participant in a conspiracy to frame me for crimes I never committed. The Federal Protection Program was designed not to keep me safe, but to document my activities in a way that would support criminal charges. Maya played another recording, Victoria discussing with unknown conspirators how to ensure the subject's financial activities create prosecutable evidence trails. Victoria Walsh has spent 2 years manipulating my charitable donations to create the appearance of money laundering while ensuring that my money actually was being used to purchase weapons. The assembled media was frantically taking notes, cameras rolling, as Maya systematically destroyed the credibility of everyone who'd been involved in her supposed protection. But here's what none of you understood about me, Maya continued, her voice rising with righteous fury. I'm not just wealthy. I'm not just naive. I'm a woman who spent 3 years building a $14 billion fortune because I'm smarter than all of you combined. Maya pulled out her laptop and projected financial records onto a large screen that her security team had set up. While you were using my money to buy weapons, I was tracking every transaction. While you were building evidence against me, I was building evidence against you. While you were planning to destroy my life, I was planning to destroy your entire operation. The financial records showed something that made Director Harrison's face go white. Parallel accounting systems that Maya had been maintaining secretly, documenting the real destination of every dollar that had passed through her accounts. I've known for 18 months that my money was being used for arms dealing. I've known for 12 months that federal agents were building a case against me. I've known for 6 months that my supposed protectors were actually my persecutors. Maya looked around at the stunned faces surrounding her. Law enforcement officers who'd been expecting to arrest a naive victim. Media representatives who'd been expecting a simple corruption story. Government officials who'd been expecting to cover up their own involvement. And I've spent all that time building an alternative network. Real humanitarian organizations with real oversight. Real financial institutions with real transparency. Real people who are actually committed to using money to help rather than harm. Maya's smile was triumphant as she revealed her final card. While you were stealing my money to buy weapons, I was using your theft to trace and freeze assets belonging to arms dealers around the world. $14 billion in criminal proceeds that are now permanently beyond your reach. Director Harrison stepped forward. Miss Kensington, even if your allegations are true, my allegations are documented fact. Maya's voice was steel. And as of this morning, copies of all evidence have been delivered to investigative journalists in 12 countries, to prosecutors in 6 international courts, and to the heads of state of every nation whose citizens have been harmed by weapons purchased with money stolen from my accounts. Maya looked directly into the cameras surrounding her. My name is Maya Kensington. I'm not a victim of international arms dealing. I'm the person who's going to end it. Not by being good enough or careful enough or trusting the right people, but by being smart enough, ruthless enough, and wealthy enough to destroy everyone who thought they could use me. As Maya walked toward the government vehicles that had come to arrest her, she felt something she'd never experienced before. She felt like exactly who she was supposed to be. Not the woman people wanted her to be. Not the woman people expected her to be. The woman she'd chosen to become. And that woman was about to change the world. 6 months later, Maya stood in the ballroom of her newly purchased hotel in Geneva, watching as delegates from 47 countries signed the International Financial Transparency Accord, a treaty that would revolutionize how humanitarian funds were tracked and protected globally. But she wasn't watching the ceremony. She was watching Tommy and Daniel at a table near the back, heads bent together over Tommy's homework, Daniel patiently explaining fractions while Tommy tried to sneak pieces of chocolate from the fancy dessert display. Maya, Victoria approached BD from behind, carrying a tablet displaying real-time updates from their operations around the world. The final prosecutions were announced this morning. Director Harrison received 25 years. The arms dealing network has been completely dismantled. Maya nodded, still watching her family. And the recovered assets? $14.7 billion returned to pension funds, aid organizations, and reconstruction efforts in conflict zones. Plus another $8 billion in criminal proceeds we traced through the network. Victoria's voice carried quiet satisfaction. Maya, you functionally ended international arms trafficking as a profitable enterprise. Maya finally turned to look at Victoria, seeing the woman who'd become her closest advisor and most trusted friend. We ended it, Victoria. I couldn't have done any of this alone. Maya, can I ask you something? Always. When did you really figure it out? When did you know that everyone was lying to you? Maya smiled, thinking back to that moment 6 months ago when her entire world had collapsed and rebuilt itself. I think I started suspecting when my supposedly dead father called me on a number that only 3 people in the world had access to. But I knew for certain when I realized that every single person claiming to protect me was asking me to give up my power, rather than helping me learn to use it properly. Maya looked around the ballroom, seeing delegates, journalists, and humanitarian workers from around the world celebrating the signing of accords that would protect future charitable donations from being weaponized. Victoria, do you ever wonder what would have happened if I'd chosen differently? If I'd walked away from the money and tried to live a normal life? I think you would have been miserable, Victoria said without hesitation. Maya, you weren't meant for a normal life. You were meant for this. Daniel appeared at Maya's elbow, Tommy bouncing excitedly beside him. Maya! Maya! Tommy's voice was bright with excitement. Daniel says we can adopt a puppy when we get back home. A big one that can protect us from bad guys. Maya knelt down to Tommy's level, adjusting the small suit he'd insisted on wearing to the important grown-up meeting. Tommy, do you understand what happened here today? You made it so that mean people can't steal money that's supposed to help kids, Tommy said seriously. And now kids like me in lots of different countries will be safer. Maya felt tears starting. Even at 8 years old, Tommy understood what she'd accomplished better than most adults. That's right, buddy. That's exactly right. Tommy hugged her fiercely. I'm proud of you, Maya. And I'm glad you and Daniel love each other, so we can be a real family. Over Tommy's head, Maya met Daniel's eyes. The past 6 months had tested their relationship in ways that most couples never faced. Congressional hearings, international trials, death threats, and the constant pressure of building something unprecedented while under global scrutiny. But every challenge had made them stronger. Daniel, Maya said, standing up, do you ever miss being a simple federal agent with straightforward assignments? Daniel's laugh was warm, genuine. Maya, do you ever miss being a simple nonprofit worker with a modest apartment? Never. Then you have your answer. Daniel took her hand, the same hand that now wore an engagement ring set with a diamond that had been ethically sourced through one of Maya's reconstructed charitable networks. Maya, I fell in love with someone extraordinary pretending to be ordinary. Now I get to be married to someone extraordinary who's stopped pretending to be anything other than exactly who she is. Maya felt the last piece of her transformation settling into place. Not the scared girl who'd inherited a fortune she didn't understand. Not the naive woman who'd been manipulated by people who claimed to protect her, but the person she'd always had the potential to become. Victoria, Maya said, what's our next priority? Victoria consulted her tablet. The education initiative in Southeast Asia is ready for launch. The clean water projects in sub-Saharan Africa are ahead of schedule. And the technology transfer program for developing nations has been approved by all participating governments. Maya nodded, feeling the familiar satisfaction of problems being solved through strategic application of resources and intelligence. And the security situation? Completely stable. Maya, dismantling the arms trafficking network eliminated most of the threats against you. The remaining criminal organizations have decided you're too dangerous to target directly. Maya laughed. Too dangerous. I like that. Tommy tugged on Maya's dress. Maya, are we going home now? I want to show my friends at school the pictures from the important meeting. Maya looked around the ballroom one last time, at the delegates celebrating agreements that would protect humanitarian funds worldwide, at the journalists documenting the story of how one woman had used her wealth to end a global criminal enterprise, at the security team that now protected her by choice rather than assignment. Yes, Tommy, we're going home. As Maya's family walked toward the exit, she felt her phone buzz with a message from her financial director. Asterisk Maya, we've identified another potential money laundering operation, this one involving climate change research funds. Should we investigate? Asterisk. Maya smiled and typed back. Asterisk, send me the preliminary data. We'll assess it during the flight home. Asterisk. Because Maya Kensington was no longer someone who stumbled into problems or waited for others to solve them. She was someone who actively sought out injustice and dismantled it with surgical precision. Daniel, she said as they reached their car, how do you feel about a working honeymoon? Depends. Are we dismantling another international criminal conspiracy? Possibly. Daniel's grin was answer enough. As their car pulled away from the hotel, Maya looked back at the building where 47 countries had just agreed to protocols that would protect humanitarian funding for generations. Tonight, children around the world would sleep safer because of decisions made in that ballroom. Tomorrow, Maya would start working on the next problem. But tonight, she was going home with the man she loved and the son they'd chosen together, to a life that was anything but normal and exactly what she'd always been meant to live. Maya's phone buzzed with a call from an unknown international number. 6 months ago, such a call would have terrified her. Now, she answered it with anticipation. This is Maya Kensington. Miss Kensington, this is Dr. Sarah Chen from the University of Beijing. We've discovered some irregularities in international academic funding that we think you should know about. Maya looked at Daniel, who was already pulling out his own phone to coordinate with Victoria. Dr. Chen, tell me everything. As Maya listened to details about yet another conspiracy involving stolen funds and exploited institutions, she felt the familiar excitement of a new challenge, a new opportunity to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. Dr. Chun, I'll have a team in Beijing within 72 hours. In the meantime, document everything and trust no one. Maya ended the call and looked at her family, Daniel coordinating logistics with the efficiency of someone who'd learned to love the complexity of their life, Tommy asleep against the window, Victoria already pulling up preliminary research on her tablet. 6 months ago, Maya had been a victim of circumstances she didn't understand. Now she was the person that other victims called when they needed circumstances changed. And there was nowhere else in the world she'd rather be. Daniel, she said quietly, are you ready for the next adventure? Maya, with you, I'm ready for anything. As their plane took off for home, Maya looked down at the lights of Geneva disappearing below them and thought about all the people around the world who were safer tonight because one woman had refused to accept that wealth made her powerless. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new conspiracies to unravel, new ways to use money as a force for justice rather than exploitation. But tonight, Maya Kensington was exactly who she was meant to be. And that was enough. What did this story teach you about the power of refusing to be underestimated and the courage it takes to embrace who you're truly meant to become? Drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more stories that will change how you see the world. 6 months after the Geneva Accords, mysterious financial irregularities began appearing in academic institutions across 3 continents. Dr. Sarah Chen's call would be the beginning of Maya's next investigation. One that would reveal that some conspiracies run deeper than anyone imagined, and that some enemies are more patient than others. But that's a story for another day.